All right. Welcome, everybody. And Boomer Sooner. It is Wednesday, September 4th, week 2 of the college football 2024 season. And I'm joined tonight by Gavin and Andrew. Gavin, how was your Labor Day weekend? Did you get time to relax? I know you got plenty of football watching in, but did you do anything else? Did you travel anywhere? Did you go to the lake? Or did you just have a good little staycation at home?
It was more of a staycation at home. And I want to say welcome to almost everybody except for those that have DirecTV with all
Yeah.
the issues that have been going on and everything. You are still in dark with everything that's still going on here. So I'm sorry for all those DirecTV viewers out there. But in your compensation, you'll get $20 back because of our dispute with the giant company that controls most of the sports network.
See, this is a topic for another live stream, but this is what we call late stage capitalism where nobody wins. So, other than that, Swiggy, what about you, buddy? How have you been? How was your post Labor Day weekend? Did you get a lot of rest and relaxation? Did you play for the 95th time Resident Evil 7 walkthrough and
Nah,
playthrough?
no, I had family in town, so we went to the OKC Zoo. Didn't realize that those 5 lion cubs were finally in the enclosure now. So I'm a lion trying to wrangle 5 little cubs that were jumping around everywhere.
They must have had a lot of energy
Oh
running and
yeah,
bouncing around.
oh yeah, they were. Oh yeah, they were. Oh yeah, oh yeah, they were. Oh yeah, they were going crazy. And once again, there's 5 of them, so they were all pouncing on one another.
Oh, absolutely, because that is what kittens do. That is what
Yeah,
they do.
I
So,
wanted to
gentlemen,
pet.
before
I
oh,
wanted
go ahead,
to.
go ahead.
I wanted to pet the forbidden kitties, but I could not.
That's the mountain lion. The forbidden kitty is the mountain lion. They're
To be
they're nice and fine when they're 20 pounds and you can hold them in your hands.
yeah,
When they're larger than that and you become their snack, that is a that becomes a bigger problem.
pretty sure Mama Lion would have taken me out. So
Mama lions, Mama
yeah, Mama
lions, because
Lion. Yeah,
more than one would have taken you out.
the entire the entire pride would have messed me up.
So, regardless, guys, before we get started, I do want to state something as it is the 1 year anniversary of the passing of Jason David Frank. As everybody knows, I'm a nerdy person, but it did hit a lot of major news outlets that, when the Green Ranger committed suicide, like it can affect anybody. So, again, guys, I just want to remind y'all if you need help, there is help available to you. Dial 988, and that is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It is for English and Spanish speakers, and it is for available 24 hours a day. Again, you're not alone in this. Everybody is here to help you. Y'all know very much that I'm very much a proponent of promoting the lifelines. I'm very much promoting of Extra Life and trying to donate for like children's um, hospital, everything like that. So that is a part of this live stream and will remain a part of this live stream. So again, if you need help, guys, 988, that is the number to dial. Anyway, I didn't want to bring the mood down or anything, but it is important to mention that information because I do feel like as we get caught up in our hobbies, we get caught up with life in general, we do kind of forget to check in on everybody and just kind of see how everyone's doing at that point. So the important thing is ask yourself today, guys, how are you doing today? So that all aside, let's talk football. Let's bring the mood back up. Let's talk football. So, you had a football game on Saturday, and they won 51-3, and they did not pass the eye test, in my opinion. Now, you may be wondering why that is. Gavin, I'm going to let you start. So, OU won 51-3. What is your immediate takeaway outside of that? I'm not trying to add in like Sean said last week, but Temple is a terrible team.
It was, yeah, Temple was just not good. And honestly, it was like, I would say the biggest takeaway was I'm going to start with a positive. The defense, really with Zach Ally's first game as D coordinator, he did really well, being able to swarming the Temple offense for the most part. I would
Mm-hmm.
think, it was just a really good job of swarming to the ball, capturing everybody on all sides. So I really have a lot of good positive sides on the defense, which I think is going to be the real huge strength for the team this year, which is something that we've been lacking for the last couple of years. The downside, and this is going to be so obvious to everyone, it's been the consistency.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was a little bit of the consistency with the O-line, and also, with basically of like keeping the ball moving down the field a little bit. Now, Jackson Arnold did great. Deion Burks, was like the first Sooner receiver to get 3 touchdowns, which is really good, within the skill position wide. But the trenches right now are something that I'm just not feeling 100% confident in. And in order to win the SEC, you have to win in the trenches. And if you don't, then you are going to be down near the bottom of the tier for the season.
If you don't, you're going to have a lot of problems. And yeah, Swiggy, initial thoughts, initial feedback from OU's victory. First of 4 home games. Remember, we are all in September, roughly till Auburn, at home.
Mm-hmm.
So what was initial gut feeling, initial impressions facing off against the Temple Owls?
Honestly, as weird as weird as to say, maybe it's because I had the offense did better than I expected, which is but I had lower expectations. So I guess that's my thing. Look, the offense had some issues. It was what it was. Luckily we have a few tune-up games to get it right. Am I concerned about the offense? Mildly. I have the same concerns I had last week. I thought, like I said, I was a bit more. I thought we were going to get 42 points. Look solid, maybe not great, but solid, and they basically met what I thought they'd do. I still think we'll be able to get fixed up. But the line has to grow up, or we're going to be relying heavily on the defense. Now, on the plus side, look, Temple's not good. I'm not going to pretend they are. But the defense did exactly what you want to do against a team like Temple. They got 6 turnovers. Everyone was swarming the ball. Temple never. There was never any point where I thought Temple looked even mild or looked any sort of comfortable. So I'll take that away. I'm happy with the defense. Offense, the only real thing is the line, and that's a work in progress. We'll just have to see. Luckily, we have a month before it's really going to kill us, so we do have time to fix it.
I agree with both of y'all's points. I was at the game, so I think if I had to take something away, I do want to stress and keep in mind that all of my issues with the current offensive problems, we were out several starters. I think it is a step up from being just standard bruises, standard injuries from a fall camp to this is kind of a serious, how long is it going to take for these guys to get healed, whether it's some prolonged injuries, whether it's some more immediate ones. In addition to the wide receiver room that had a lot of depth to it, is now very, very, very thin. Again, though, lots of injuries. So I'm going to start kind of the same way with the defense. To me, the defense is going to decide our season of if we win or lose big games. They're going to be the ones that dictate that, because basically for the first 2 series, the starters were in roughly-ish, and you saw what they could do at will to Temple. They were able to cause a lot of havoc. They were able to swarm the ball. They were able to cause, again, what Swiggy and Gavin, you both said, they were able to cause 6 turnovers. They pretty much set the tone for the rest of the game. After the first 2 series, they really reeled it back a lot, and that also goes back to the initial, they were going to play very vanilla, but they still needed to pass the eye test. And y'all know what I mean by the eye test, where it's you have that gut feeling. You see, even vanilla, they were able to assert their dominance, which the defense did. name a player on the defense that basically shown, you could say, pretty much anybody and everybody at that point. I would say for me, outside Stutzman, it was cool seeing him like on the field. If you focused on him, he was dictating where players were going. He was moving players around to read the offense. He may not be to some the best player on the field, but he's definitely the leader on the field, where Billy Bowman is the most talented player. Now, that all said, I think Kendall Dolby did the best on the field easily. He made his presence known. I really enjoyed the back-to-back sacks at the end of the game with I think it's Marcus Strong who had them. He was energized. I think Stutzman and Billy were also like very happy for him. Guys, the defense basically wanted to kill people. Let's just be honest. They
did.
wanted to kill a lot of people. They probably got tired of beating up on our offense, so it said it's now time to go beat up on somebody else's offense.
I mean,
boy, they threw them around. It was like a big brother picking up the little brother and just tossing him.
I mean,
that was our defense, and something we have not seen since 2017, or if we're going even further back, 2009.
Yeah,
this is a very dominant defense.
Yeah, 2009.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly. I mean, honestly, this is exactly the kind of performance I expected. I expected, when Brent got hired.
Correct.
So
correct.
I mean, so that's good. Brent. That's Brent. I mean, he can recruit. He can bring guys in, and your defense is going to be talented. Offense. Offense. We have work to do, but I think we have enough smart coaches and enough talent on offense that will at least be able to improve.
Defense. I'm not surprised based on what we're seeing at Clemson right now and kind of their complete free fall. I'm not surprised that defense that Venables has refined, and that I'm not going to say he was the sole reason why we wanted him out initially. For it, I think it's matured and grown, and getting another perspective from another team has helped make the defense what it is now. Now, I do agree with y'all on the flip side of that as well, where, boy, the offense has problems. It's not Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold was fine. The playbook was very, very vanilla. I did want to jump over the stands at some point and strangle over the stands to strangle some fans because they kept going, why is it Jackson Arnold throwing the ball deep? We're not going to throw the ball deep. It's Temple. Get that through your heads. We're not throwing it over 20 yards. Why do we keep running the ball? We're going to run the ball. It's Temple. We're not going to throw the ball, and we're not going to do anything that would reveal anything against us for Tennessee. This isn't a complicated thing, guys. Anyway.
No.
I had to get my vent out of the moment. But we already had the stupid fans. But then again, based on how SEC Shorts has us like, you won by 49 points and it's not good enough, kind of spot on. But regardless, where I'm getting at with that is the offense. Jackson Arnold to me was fine. To me, he was able to throw the ball very pretty. I think he has the weapons and stuff around him to do that. I do think he's going to be running for his life a whole lot this season, though, unless the O-line comes together. Running backs, it's hard to gauge the running backs because, again, how the O-line was set up. Running backs had a lot of issues getting going. Sawchuk wasn't that great this game. To me, Barnes was better than he was, but then again, Sawchuk's going to be the starter. A hot take I would like to see is, honestly, and I understand it was probably against like second string, third string. Honestly, I think Taylor Tatum was the best player on the offense at that point because the way he runs is very much like Joe Mixon. His center of gravity is very different versus Sawchuk and Barnes, who seem more like hunched over and power runners. You can see that dynamic and probably why he was, again, the number one running back in his class. But that said, he was the most impressive with it. Again, you don't really need to throw your weight around against Tulane. You just need to, or at Tulane against Temple, you just need to look competent with it. I think he looked the most competent. He's not going to be stealing anybody's job unless they're injured. But he is. I could easily see him in some rotation. Like, you don't leave that talent on the bench at this point. Wide receivers, again, we had a lot of injuries. Nick Anderson was injured prior to the game. Andrel is just getting back into the groove. don't listen to Dean Blevins about Andrell not being able to contribute. Just don't who let Dean out of his house again and gave him his cell phone. That said,
I'm sorry, that
Andrell,
was my fault.
don't do it again, Gavin.
All right.
That said, what's it called? Andrell's got to have time to get himself back into routine. He's been out of the game for 10 months at this point. It's going to take some time to catch up. That left us with Deion Burks, and Deion Burks, best player on the field, in my opinion, in this first game. That was on the offensive side of the ball. Bro was all over the field and making some pretty incredible catches. We have a tight end now. I'm sorry about that. And Farouk is out 6 to 8 weeks because of a broken foot. And honestly, I think he might be done for the year because that's best positive thinking at this point. But he's probably, I think, going to have some work done on the foot. He's probably not going to come back as what he's supposed to be. And now the question is going to be, if he does, that's great. But does that mean he's going to go to the NFL, or if he's going to stick around for another year? I don't know.
It's
injuries are all.
Injuries are.
case.
Yeah, injuries you don't know. I'm sure someone is. I'm sure someone is going to be talking with him about that. But I just don't see. If you're missing that much time this year, he should come. He should come back another year, because I just don't see him being drafted high enough to justify it. He really needs this year. He really needs this year to build up some more value. Right now, he's just a so-so wide receiver on a so-so offense. So, not that they won't give you a look, and if you do well in the combine, but I'd be shocked. This isn't like when Jalen Waddle went out. When everyone knew.
Yeah.
Everyone knew Jalen Waddle was a first-round draft pick, no matter what happened. In fact, Jalen Waddle should not play in the national championship game. I still don't know how Saban let that happen, because God, if he got hurt, if he had really screwed up his knee, that would have screwed. That would screwed him up so badly.
That's kind of like why didn't he run Derrick Henry more in the Sugar Bowl?
But regardless, so yeah, I'm kind of on that same spot with. We'll see. I think Farouk's probably going to do everything he can to try and come back, but but I also don't see him rushing back. I also don't see him rushing back. So we'll see. Wide receiver.
Wide receiver right now, I think our starters is going to be Nick Anderson when he's healthy, Deion Burks, Andrell Anthony, and probably Petaway. I'm assuming that would be the starting lineup going forward. I wouldn't see why it wouldn't be. Without Farouk in there, that seems to be the guys. But it depends on what's his name? Seth Luttrell has for plans for how often he wants to have 4 wide receivers on the field and everything.
Yeah.
But we have a tight end. Sharpe looked, no pun intended, looked sharp out there. He got the first touchdown of the season. It's nice that we actually have a competent tight end that it doesn't stranglehold or handcuff our offensive play calling. I also think, congrats, Luke, you probably lost your job. Yeah, Luke or Zach lost your job to the new kicker, because I'm sorry, you can't bench him. He's got to be your starter. He nailed all those field goals from 45, 50 plus yards.
50, 42, and 24.
You gotta take the guy who can hit 50 and look calm doing it, especially with the holder a couple times, juggling it. Now, every other position aside, now I want to circle back around real fast to the offensive line. Offensive line has problems. Again, we knew starters were going to be out. Losing our center for the game really showed we were struggling a little bit. We're still waiting on Jake Taylor to come into the game. We're waiting on Troy Everett, and we're also waiting on a couple. So it's we had 1 starter and out of 5. So I understand there was going to be a struggle. This is where I say we did not pass the eye test, because, boys, it's Temple. Even if you're second and third string, unless you're a freshman, you should be able to toss your weight around and just at least hold the line. Now, I'm not going to fully dog on the O-line because I think the run defense was garbage. But I thought their pass protection was okay. I thought they gave Arnold a little bit more time than I'm giving them credit for it, even though I also say too that Arnold's probably going to be running for his life a vast majority of the season. It's giving me shades of 2015 OU, where it was like they got their act together against Tennessee. Ironically, guess what? We need to have our act together before Tennessee.
Yeah.
But you still needed to throw your weight around. You still needed to be held. I think, and I know I'm dogging him and as everybody else is, but you can't have Spencer Brown on the starting lineup. Like, he should not even be on the depth chart. Like, Bro shouldn't even be part of the break glass if emergency. Like, he should be part of the practice squad at this point. He's not a good player. That's a waste of a scholarship in an NIL, whatever you want to call it, space. Get someone else in there. And I think that's always been my biggest criticism of Beat and Bo is he's not putting our best players out there all at the same time, and he rotates too much. We know for a fact the O-line gets frustrated at that because they can't gel and they cannot get situated. In my opinion, if you have, say, a Spencer Brown on one hand and you have another guy who is younger on the other hand, Spencer Brown has the experience, whatever. Younger guy doesn't have the experience but has a higher ceiling. Give me the younger guy. He'll develop faster. I think Spencer Brown has plateaued, and it may not be the program for him. And maybe he just had a bad game. That's what it could come down to. Maybe he just had a lousy game. Everybody gets a mulligan. But boy, his mulligan sucked. Just like with our wide receivers like Hester and Brennan. Boy, they had some terrible games. They had some dookie games. That's where I believe the concerns, even against Temple, it's legitimate. Like, yeah, we don't have anyone with breakaway speed on wide receivers, but you got to catch those balls, guys. Like, this isn't deep balls. This is 15, 20 yards at max. If even that. You got to catch the football when it lands into your hands for it. Otherwise, you need to be doing what Ryan Broyles did and catching tennis balls at 5 a.m. in the morning or whatever time he got up to do it, to perfect his catching from when Landry would kind of overthrow everything. But yeah, it was what it was for it. OU still won 51-3. And guess what? As everyone said, we're probably going to win some games very ugly. And we have to accept that, but the defense is going to dictate the tone of this year. Again, I want to stress, I'd rather take a win than a loss. And I'm nowhere near the meltdown win of Army or meltdown win of when we beat the Pokes. But there is still criticism that is valid to bring from this.
Yeah.
I think we covered mostly Temple. I mean, some of it we're repeating again, but at the same time that we have valid concerns that you have 3 weeks till Tennessee. You can get away with this with Houston. You can somewhat get away with this with Tulane. I think people are trying to speak into existence Tulane. But you can't get away with Tennessee because they're going to exploit that. Nico will exploit those weaknesses.
Yeah.
Now, that aside, since I think we've talked ad nauseum about Temple, but I do want to add in like some stuff as well. Gentlemen, first, I messed up. I want to say I messed up completely. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have said it. I need to give y'all a newspaper or the spray bottle because I messed up. Because, gentlemen, when the ref asked how you thought the Toby Keith celebration went, and I spoke up and said I thought it was a D, boy, that was the wrong thing to say to the masses out there. I think that was my bigger criticism of the football game was at least the O-line's fixable. I'm like, I can't imagine doing this for 6 more games. It was a lousy third to fourth quarter. It was, they did courtesy of the red, white, and blue. And, you know, sure, Toby loved America. He loved the USA. But same time, yikes. It felt haphazard together. It felt like they just threw this together at the last minute. I thought it was, they could have done more. We could have had a drone show with it. They could have got out the big American flag. They could have got out, like, basically all they showed was they put on basically the screen after there was a cool little intro video for Toby. Don't get me wrong there, but they put it on the big screen and just showed people singing. And it was kind of lame because half the people weren't singing. And, you know, credit to whatever, however you want to say it. it doesn't hit as hard as well when half the stadium's missing. I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah,
I thought it was if it was a
but you
one-off
can't.
deal.
But to be fair, they can't control that. Like, admittedly, you probably should have planned for that better because people are gonna leave. Because it's Friday night, people are gonna leave. Okay, we've beaten Temple. Let's go out drinking. But with some of that, I agree with you. But I agree with you. That's kind of a problem. But that's just kind of. That's also why you probably don't debut stuff like this during Temple. When you're gonna take them out, but that's where we are. So
it was lousy. If this was a one-off thing, it's kind of whatever. But in my opinion, it's what Red Dirt said on Twitter, and I agree with him. It's a controversial thing to do when you're picking the song that even if Toby liked it, it doesn't hit as hard when you lost both wars with it and made it worse off. Not getting on politics soapbox, but truth hurts, guys. It's history. When you made it worse off when you left, it's not as football stuff. Just play Beer for My Horses and have the ponies run around the field. I thought they did a cool job with the ponies. They put like lights and stuff under the schooner and inside of it. Looked really cool. They pimped out the scooter. I wonder if they had a TV in it. Don't giving me back to pimp my ride. But overall, it was like I expected more. And then you have to think too, like, what other songs are they going to do? Obviously, Red Solo Cup. Obviously, that's going to be one. It's weird that if they would do it, even though it's the most popular, one of the more popular ones is I Ain't As Good As I Once Was, because that's like, well, now we're like has-beens. Like, that's a little weird, but okay. I love this bar. That's fine. The entire irony behind it all, and I know it's get your tomatoes ready. They honestly should have been a Cowboy in the stadium. I know people would have pitchforks.
No.
But
no
it's
Cowboys.
It's his number one song. You can't ignore it.
Do you think that's going to go over well for Sooner fans if you mention anything
No,
about
Cowboy? But it's the reality of it. Like, you got to pick the song that gave him his break. That, in my opinion, that one or what's it called? How Do You Like Me Now? But again, that reminds me of Ain't As Good As I Once Was. Like, it doesn't hit as hard, but I hope they do better with it. They've got 6 more games. Now, to the people who say, let's make this a tradition, oh, hell no.
God, no. God,
no. You have your time, because I've already said it. I already stoked the flames of it, of saying, I think this should have been a one-off thing, and I think they're just milking it now because they had their chance with the spring game. They had their chance with the, basketball games. He was more mainstay in the basketball versus the football realm. Now, that said, don't make this a tradition. This is not something that needs to be a football thing. Get it out of your system at this point. Anyway, yeah. I could vent longer on it. I just thought it was a lousy production. It was, to me, it was like, well, you got some of the crowd to sing along with it. Okay. I guess the only other thing I can think of was, but you know what else was actually lousy from the game? And I'm not trying to sound like I'm bitching 30 minutes into our live stream, but you know what else was lousy? So OU decided, and I was very excited to bring it back. I sent it to Swiggy, was they were bringing back the "We Were Going to Beat the Hell Out of You" chant. Boy, that thing did not land at all. It was forced. People couldn't hear the band. They didn't play it over the loudspeakers. It's been so long since people had it. It was very like awkward, like how the stadium was like, how some of it was saying they didn't know what the lyrics were. I think they added even in another beat to it. It was bad. It was very bad. You gotta get the crowd used to it again before you pull stuff like that. And it's a minor gripe. I'm not gonna cry about it. But if they're gonna promote, those tumblers, the Simply Modern tumblers they had, I would say, like, guys, you got to print more of that stuff. Apparently they were sold out like right as like pregame started. And for $50, you would think that they would have at least a reasonable amount of them. Like, boys, like I heard, I think 1,000 was printed. You got to print more than that, guys. Like, I understand they don't want to sit on it, but that's why you have the entire season to sell them. But regardless, like I said, that's just me moaning,
worst
whining, and griping.
Worst case, give them to some freshmen next year. Just print a lot and just give them to some freshmen if you need to.
Yeah, I mean, I want some of them just solely like the Bob Stoops one because that's when I went to school, and I want the fan one because I think the Sugar Bowl is going to be featured on it. Even with it being a mount, I can always rotate them around. I can put them on my shelf with the Switzer Jaeger and the two ponies, even though I don't drink. Someone actually picked it up and said it's they got 2 bottles. One is really good, and they're not going to open the other one until we win a national championship. I went, man, you should just have one where us winning a playoff game for first. But anyway, that's kind of recapping though all of the Temple, all the fan festivities, all of the stuff. No, I should take it back. I have one more, then we'll move on. I have one more. Kudos to the crowd. They proved me wrong. They did show up on a Friday. Traffic was horrendous, but they did show up on a Friday.
Yeah, but traffic's always horrendous.
More so than usual. It took me 3 hours to get to campus.
Oh, 3 hours. Oh, wow, 3 hours. Oh, well,
it's because it was Labor Day, and I've even been told
yeah,
there's been a lot of internal complaints,
especially during rush hour. Especially on 35.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Correct. Gavin, you know when you came to the
oh gosh, that was just. Yeah, that was just like that is the most terrible thing. It's like I don't even know how people get to work on time on 35.
It's not as bad when it's that because it's still stilted. So it's like here's the 7 o'clock, here's the 7:15, here's the 7:30 people. But when it's everybody and you combine that with Labor Day plus it being a Friday, it was just kind of a cluster. I've heard little rumors here and there, stuff internal again that that was the other thing. I will mention this is a bitch-worthy moment. They did not have as many replays in the stadium, but apparently they were short-staffed because guess what? They were working Friday night games. They did not have nearly enough capacity for it, or people were on Labor Day breaks.
Yeah,
so,
it's it's the same thing. Like, I kind of planned my. Well, I didn't fully plan my weekend around. I didn't fully plan my weekend around it, but I did go and see Twisters. I saw Twister and Twisters.
Let me finish real fast. Temple and OU really fast. So kudos to the crowd. I did not really see any like noticeable visible holes throughout the stadium of like missing people until like halftime. Halftime people pretty much bugged out. I'm surprised we made it to halftime for it, but kudos to the crowd. You definitely proved me wrong. I do think still they did a push for it because I don't think they were at where they wanted to be. But I think tickets lowered enough where people are like, I'll pay $35 to go. I still think it was very expensive for a face value, and they wouldn't have had to do that push otherwise. But again, traffic, like getting people there to work it, as well as the traffic, I think they may stray away from Friday games. I know a lot of people before like, well, we played Nebraska on Friday. You also had Thursday off, and it wasn't a major travel day for it. This is a little bit different. So again, beggars can't be choosers, but according to a friend of mine, he even said that the tailgating actually was pretty lively too. So kudos to them for at least doing that, but it could have been better. I won't be surprised if they stray completely away from Friday night games. Same thing with Sunday, unless they are absolutely forced to. I don't think the crowd's in favor of a Friday night game. At least the weather was beautiful, though.
Yeah.
Anyway, Swiggy, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Well, yes. You had to plan my weekend around it because, my aunt came down and we saw Twister and Twisters and 40X, and I survived. I honestly, normally I'm against clapping at the end of a movie, but this time I did clap because I in fact survived both. I in fact survived both events. I can tell you this, as someone who's driven down a lot of rural Oklahoma roads, they did give you the experience. The 40X seats did give you the experience as close as one could for driving down rural Oklahoma roads.
See, I wanted to attend it, but I couldn't justify the price. I know you have the pass and everything for it. I could not justify like $40 to see for one ticket and 40X to go see Twisters. But I'm glad you had a fun time with it. I don't want to take away from your.
It was. I mean, well, because Well, yeah, because I had to pay for my aunt, but like my ticket, like my 2 tickets just cost like $11 all in all. So I had no I had no problems with it. In fact, I wish Beetlejuice wasn't taking up 40x this weekend. Yeah, and in fact, if I'm yeah, in fact, if I'm God, and I really think I really think in retrospect they wish they could have redone that Twisters release because look,
Like Deadpool and Wolverine.
I'm not insulting Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not gonna go into it too much, but like Twisters is just a better 40x experience than Deadpool and Wolverine. Like
Well,
that,
yeah.
like that,
Mhm.
like I'm not like other than that, like I'm not gonna say anything. And like yeah, and like they lost so much of it. Like if they had moved it, like that's just unfortunate because that really if it had come out after and it had 40x theaters through like all of August instead, because really there hasn't been because really August we had a few things, but August was pretty light this year, and they could have had the and like I know like I've debated going again, and just just for perspective, um let's see. The 1025 tonight at the Warren is currently. Is it even? Let's see. Yeah. So yeah, sold out. So, yeah. No. There's. Yeah. It's a. In fact, let me even see. I'll check tomorrow. I'm just gonna check the 10 a.m. one just for the heck of. I'm not going since I've done it already. I'm just checking for the heck of it because why not? And yeah, the 10 a.m. showing is like 80% full. So that should kind of
Yeah.
tell you that should kind of tell you how good an experience it was. Because I'm not really pro 40x normally. Because I'm kind of with you, Josh. Even with my movie pass thing, I'm kind of like, I want to drop. I want I don't mind dropping like $4 on IMAX, but like $5 for ones that move. I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. Plus, I just don't in general like moving around. Twisters was worth it. Twister was fun too because I've never seen Twister on the big screen. I was too young and
It's worth it.
exactly I've just never
Mhm.
gone to see it. So it was nice seeing Twister for the first time on a big screen. Yeah, no, really, no, really fun experience. Kind of hope they're able to finagle one more release in September. I doubt they'll be able to, but you never know. You never know. They might, but you never know. If nothing big is 40x booked, they'll 100% book it again since that's fun. So
Yeah. Well, let's focus back around football. That we've still got to cover week 1 and preview week 2 at this point. So with OU and Temple out of the way at this point, there was obviously other games going on because guess what? It was the opening weekend of college football. For
you know what,
us, we
you know what, Josh? I just want to say one thing
what?
about the opening week of college football. They said, they promised me with this playoff, no team could be eliminated by the end of week 1. And I want to salute Florida State for proving the haters wrong. They were able to do it.
They were able to do it within 2 weeks. I think the stat I saw was they're like the first one of the 4 teams to go 0-2 that were in the top 10 to completely drop out over the past like 10 or 15 years or something, and
Mm-hmm.
they have the honor of doing it twice.
Yeah,
Twice. Georgia Tech,
Yeah.
Florida State. Ooh, we talk about how much problems we have. I understand it is not fully DJ's fault or Norvell's fault because they lost 14 guys. Like
no,
this is
No.
a rebuilding thing. However,
and they face
DJ's overthrowing so much to like open receivers that he could probably overthrow the Cuban government at this point.
it was.
Boy,
Look, I'll say what I said. I think Florida State ended up getting a very rough opening because for 2 reasons. Well, a couple of reasons. Number one, they started in Ireland, and yeah, even though they had the Monday game, so they had extra days, you're still talking about going from Ireland back to Florida. So that eats away. So that wears you down a little bit. Okay, but they also got two teams. Oh, they also got two teams. Their opening games. So this is what Georgia Tech spent all summer on. That's what Boston College spent all summer on. And they got two, and they got two teams that normally have good line play. Like that's just how they are. Like Georgia Tech and Boston College never have enough talent to really beat you, but they can wear you. But there's a chance they can wear you down with how good their lines are. So everything kind of came together because DJ's not a talented enough quarterback to overcome some of these issues. They're still trying to gel they're still trying to gel with their offense and their defense, which is a major problem. And you also have a fan base who was probably overly optimistic about their chances this year. I get it. I get it. You went undefeated last year, but so much changed from last year, and some of that's the problem with preseason polls. It's just people fail to acknowledge the inherent issues in that turnover. Like Florida State was not. They have issues. But their bigger issues are if they have figured things out. Like if DJ doesn't stop being terrible, you're talking. They'll win 5 games, but they probably.
Dude, we already know that the Florida and Florida State game is on the Hallmark channel at 8 a.m.
There's a chance they max out. They're between. I'm between 5 and 8 wins right now, depending how things go. Now, I'll be fair to them. If they do somehow win out, then yeah, they deserve to make the playoff. They'll be Clemson, Miami, Notre Dame. They'll have some good wins, but I don't think they will. I think they're gonna struggle. I think they're probably gonna be an 8-win team. So, I do think there's some hope in salvaging the season for Florida State. But a lot of that does depend. A lot of that does rely on DJ making passes, which right now it seems like he can't do. So, yeah, I don't know what you do there.
Florida State's
and this is coming from a guy.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and this is and this is what I was going to say. And this is coming from, and I'm not kidding you, who was in the same high school ranking class to where Bryce Young was number 1, and then CJ Stroud was number 3, and DJU was basically at number 2. And boy, he's definitely just fallen off and everything throughout after the rankings and everything. It's like his career's just been nowhere to where everything's been going on, and it's like, I'm sorry, but it's hard for me to just basically see him going anywhere future in football or anything. That he's a complete now 5-star bust. I'm sorry, I'm calling it.
Yeah,
he is what I thought Dylan Gabriel was going to be. And Dylan, at his peak, is a high 3-star, borderline 4-star, where it's you have a flawed quarterback in some type of area. For Dylan, it was he couldn't throw the long ball. For DJ, he's a low end, high end 2-star. He's not good. But that also goes to Mike Norvell as well. Now, I thought Mike would be a little more on the hot seat, but then again, Mike is he just was not even outside the cusp of winning getting into the playoff. He was snubbed from it. So his job is still kind of sort of secure, but they're not going to be making any moves anytime soon.
It's a bigger problem for Florida State is, and you know what? I think this is one thing that every college football fan needs to start realizing. The portal is fantastic for small repairs to your house. It's not going to be it's not going to give you a full renovation or foundation fix. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, you can't look, yeah, you can find quarterbacks in the portal. I'm not going to pretend you can't, and you can always find guys who are just in a better situation, are better, or just need something different. But like the thing is, most of the quarterbacks that move in the portal, they're churn guys. I mean, look, Bo Nix. Bo Nix was very successful at Oregon. I want to be clear, but it's he didn't really win anything at Oregon, so you're kind of stuck with what you have, and it just means look, you still have to focus on development. If you need a short term solution, go find someone in the portal. I mean, I'm pretty mad at how Ohio State's handled their quarterback room by letting certain guys go, and and that we
Just say his name because you just have to accept he's your
and
quarterback.
then now we have Will Howard as our starting quarterback.
There you go.
But fine, Will Howard's a short-term solution. I don't like it, but that's where we are. But that's the thing. It's fine if he's a short-term solution. We need, this goes for every team. Look, Florida State didn't really develop quarterbacks. They got lucky with Jordan Travis, and now not having anyone behind him, they just went to the portal, got DJ, and look, DJ was probably the best they could do. So good for him, good for them. But the problem is DJ's not good. He's not. Look, if DJ was on Virginia Tech, fine, that's fine. No, he we kind of move on. We'd be like, oh, that's where DJ is now. Man, that sucks for him. And he'd do fine. He'd throw probably about 2,700 yards. Get a solid TD to interception ratio. Nothing really shocking, but he'd be middle of the pack in the ACC. Unfortunately, at Florida State, he can't hide. And honestly, I don't really know I don't know enough about Florida State quarterbacks. So maybe this is NIL driven, or maybe their quarterbacks just aren't good enough to replace DJ at this point. We'll see. I mean, luckily, Norvell has a week off to make some decisions, so we'll see.
What's more likely to happen at this point? Players saying they're going to opt out the rest of the season, DJ getting benched, or Norvell getting fired?
They're not going to. No buyout is too much. So, but
because Jimbo Fisher proved that.
Yeah, I'd still be shocked if they fired him because, look, he did take you to 10 wins the last 2 years, and I think that Florida State just had an unrealistic expectation. My guess is DJ gets benched, and that's just burned NIL money. But I think that's probably the most likely outcome.
Yeah, it is a struggling situation for Florida State, but hey, I mean, we get to point back and laugh at them with it just because of how incompetent everything has been, capped off by them trying to get out of the CEC with Clemson as well. At this point, the other teams are looking like, all right, we don't want to recruit these teams at this point, but it is what it is. In addition to, you say Florida State, look at Florida. Florida also got a very, very, very rough game. They had a very, very, very rough game.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and for the most part, to where Miami was just running circles around them. And I was laughing about this because I actually was seeing this on social media. There was even at one point to where the Miami players they basically had the recruits right there, in the end zone or something like that, and they were going after the Florida, kid, basically going after the recruits and everything else though too, saying you do not want to go to Florida whatsoever. You need to come to Miami.
I mean, but that's the Miami way.
No, that's
but okay. I'll say this about Miami. And that's really fun. That's really funny for me how Miami is talking about that when last time I checked, Miami has yet to win an ACC championship. So, yeah, for perspective, Pittsburgh has won an ACC championship before Miami. Before Miami has. Yeah, since Miami used to be Big East and they joined later, but 2004 is when they joined. But yeah, they still don't have one. So Miami can talk all they want, but until they actually win an ACC championship, I'm not taking them seriously. Like I think Florida's bad. I think Billy Napier's in the end game for him. I also think I also question how many basements in rural Florida the guy has been to. But
Well, I just remembered something as well. I want to circle back to the OU Temple game really briefly. There is one area of true concern as well with the wide receivers and the O line as well. This is where I'm like, they didn't pass the eye test. I think they were one time successful on getting third down. That's a concern.
1 for 12.
That is a red flag. That is a oh gosh, oh boy, oh crackers.
It's Temple. I'm not. I'll see how they do against Houston. I need a bigger sample size before I worry, because like a couple of those they were going for it on fourth down, and given how vanilla the play is, I'm just not.
I still think it should be a concern.
I
think
probably
it was
should.
11.
I probably should be concerned, but I need to. I'll see how they do against Houston, because that's like I said, that could very much be just one of those. It's one game, small sample size, and it ends up not meaning anything. Or it could be a canary in a coal mine. But I want some more. I want to see how they do against Houston before I have any opinions on that. So
Fair. Besides Florida and Florida State throwing up on themselves and them on a crash course to the biggest pillow fight in Florida in a long time later this season, because it ain't going to get easier for Florida or Florida State. A&M bumped up their schedule 2 weeks or 2 months early from their October roller coaster ride. And they lost again a big home game, because that's tradition at A&M, is to lose big home games to Notre Dame, who, unlike Florida State, probably with their schedule remaining, is probably the first team in the playoff already.
Yeah.
Because when you take a look at who's else on their list outside of probably Purdue, which you have to always watch out for Purdue, Notre Dame pretty much took care of business, and I wouldn't see why Notre Dame would not be in the playoff at this point, with the exception of, are they going to be a top 4 team or are they going to be hosting? I would assume they are going to be hosting, but that's me.
Yeah, was it? Yeah, we'll see. I mean, Aggies are who they are. Great line play, terrible quarterback. Elka. I mean, look, I'm not gonna look. This is Elko's first season, and his first game is he's trying to rebuild a Jimbo team. And I know you can say, oh, we spent all this NIL money. Yeah. I don't care how you spend NIL money. I don't care what you spent it on. The fact is, it's still going to take coaches a couple of years to build something. I think Marcus Freeman's a very solid coach in Notre Dame. I don't think he's like world beater or anything, but like one of his first games was against Ohio State in Columbus. So it's like it's going to and he had been moved up at Notre Dame. So
yeah.
I'm going to give Elko some time, because, like, look, if I want to say one thing about the Aggies, I thought their defensive line looked really good. Totally the opposite of how I felt Florida looked. Their quarterback is horrible, so they need to fix that. But I also think the Aggies were a little overrated coming into the season. But what else is new there? So
yeah, I mean, death taxes and overrated Aggies. Besides Texas A&M, I would say at this point too, I think there is an area of concern that a lot of people have circled was Oregon. Oregon struggled, and it did look like for a very brief moment that they were potentially going to lose to the world beaters of Idaho. Like, again, we complain about our game, but then look at Oregon, like, who is a preseason national championship favorite, and they struggled a whole lot.
Yeah, Oregon. I mean, I'm still think Michigan's in a worse place than Oregon because I think
I
Oregon.
agree.
I think Oregon will probably figure it out. Like I know people are going to try and hype like I know people kind of kept Michigan high so we can get that top 10 matchup. But
Yeah.
but realistically, like as someone who hates both Texas and Michigan, if Michigan beats Texas, I'll be you know what? I'll take back everything I've ever said bad about Michigan because I just don't see it. I just don't see it with this team. And like, I mean, I think Texas is a little overrated, but they're not overrated enough where they can't beat Michigan in the big house. So
Yeah.
Michigan just looks bad, and like that's the thing. That's the thing people forget. They didn't look good really at any point last season. Like they had one of those seasons where they took care of business. They let things go. They took care of their hard schedule in November. I mean, they barely beat Alabama, which it's still barely beating Alabama is still impressive. Don't get me wrong. And then they just seem to kind of have Washington's number, but it's not like Michigan was some dominant team last year. They had a lot of scares, so I don't know. I don't know. Maybe Michigan was just holding back, and they're going to surprise Texas this weekend. I'd be shocked though, but I mean, I might be in Crow next weekend. I might be in Crow on here next week. We'll see.
I mean, we can complain about Florida State, Texas A&M. You know who had the worst weekend, really? Well, up to yesterday. You know who had the worst news, though? If you were one of the 600 people who purchased the video game Concord, because, yeah, it's already shut down. Had to get that out there. But no, circling back to football, though, the only one that looked competent, they toyed around with them and just walk through it, was Georgia beating up on Clemson. And I think it's what my dad mentions, like, what's going on with Dabo? It's like he doesn't accept the transfer portal, and it's now starting to catch up with him of, dude, you're getting Clemson screwed.
I mean, it's okay. So once again, God, I hate being fair to Clemson. I hate being a contrarian on everything, but it's a bit more than that. He's lost Brent's defensive expertise. He definitely needs to use the transfer portal a little bit to fill in gaps. But Georgia barely uses the transfer portal. They have some, but they're not. But they're not exactly a high user of it. Partly because they recruit, partly because they're recruiting really well. I mean,
Yeah.
That's more Dabo's problem has been not able to accept NIL into his life. Like the portal's a small problem, but I mean he had some talented enough team. If you're a talented enough team, you overcome the portal. Just because, like I said, portal, I'm fixing. It's like, oh, okay, a door's broken. I'm fixing a hinge.
Yeah.
But NIL is, oh wait, here's our foundation, and oh damn, Clemson's foundation is crumbling because they lost Brent and didn't replace him with anyone who can recruit as well as him, and they're not using NIL, and so. Look, like I said, I'll be fair. Georgia's a very tough game to open with. I honestly never really gave Clemson a shot at it. It kind of reminds me of like when Alabama opens against like Duke or something, where you're like, maybe if things go right, but realistically, that was not going to happen. So, so there's more that Clemson. There are more issues at Clemson. And honestly, Clemson needs to kind of honestly, I get it. He's won national championships, but there's a difference between slowly not evolving with the times while still winning a lot, and there's just simply dragging your feet with not evolving on the times as things are starting to crumble around you.
Speaking of things crumbling around them,
Mm-hmm.
we can talk a lot about our disappointment in our brothers of Texas A&M and Florida, but we also cannot forget that LSU also threw up on the bed for the 5th year in a row and lost to a Lincoln Riley defense. Like, this is why you weren't Gambit, guys. As Sean has said, this is why you were not Gambit in the SEC X-Men '97 intro.
It's Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
It's Brian Kelly. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh well, USC's defense might be fixed, and you know what? To every USC fan, if you want to believe, more power to you. I have been there. I have been like, oh, that was a solid performance. But all I could think is, if Jaden Daniels was still at LSU, that defense would have been eaten alive. Like, like, that's the thing. That's the thing. All of it. That's the thing. Everyone likes to ignore. Brian Kelly is strictly a B+ coach because his teams are always good. Don't get me wrong. His teams always have talent. He always takes advantage of them, and he always does a pretty solid job. But he's never really won anything. Like he's not he like Brian Kelly choking is not surprising. Like he's just a very he's on that level of coaches where until they do it, I just assume they're going to choke. And maybe USC's fixed the defense. Honestly, given how bad it was last year, you can't get much worse. I think some of it's being overstated because this was a 9-3 LSU team that lost Jaden Daniels, and that kind of thing is and Malik Neighbors and Neighbors was LSU, right?
Maybe. It's not coming
I
to the top of
think
my head.
so.
Am I just forget? Am I just yeah, he went to LSU. Yeah, I just want to make sure I had that right. So this is a team that lost their main offensive weapons, and Brian Kelly just totally mismanaged it. So, like I said, so yeah, I'm kind of good on USC for winning that game because they, as far as confidence boosters go, they needed to win that game. But I'm still not convinced. I'm still not convinced their defense is actually quote unquote fixed. I think. I think there's still a chance that they. I still think there's a chance that they get worn down as the season goes on. And as much as we like to mock Lincoln Riley defenses, which hey, I'm the first one. I'm the first one with a lot of people there. I've seen this before where the defense looks competent enough that you think, oh, the corner's been turned. Call me in October. Call me mid-October, and let's see where USC is before I say anything about their defense.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one game in, and a lot of people want to hype it up, saying like LSU's not as good as what we think they are, and USC's better. But reality, they're probably both 8-4 teams. It's just we haven't seen football in several months, so it's hard to give a gauge on what exactly bar we have for this season at this point. So for all we know, again, USC is going to drop some games they shouldn't have, and LSU is going to win a few that they shouldn't have at this point. So, but that's pretty much a lot to talk about with week 1 and recapping the OU Temple. Let's move on to week 2, guys. Obviously, OU faces Houston this week as they're retroactive at the time when the SEC required a Power 5, now Power 4 opponent. OU had Houston already on the docket, and hey, they're part of the Big 12 at this point. And honestly, to be honest, I'm expecting a lot of the same this week that we had against Temple because, spoiler alert, Houston's not very good. They almost got
especially
shut
when
out
you
by
lose to UNLV.
They almost got shut out by UNLV. Like, yikes, my dudes. Like, there is nothing positive to say about Houston with it. Their quarterback play stinks. Their running back.
I have something positive to say about Houston.
They're Houston.
They have some good. There's some good seafood in the area.
I mean, that's fair, but that doesn't help the football team at all.
No, but I can get some crowd ads at least.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
I would rather go
that's
to
fair.
Louisiana to get some crawdads, honestly. So.
I'd rather go. I'd rather go to Louisiana too. I'm just trying to look for anything nice to say about Houston. Houston, you're not Dallas.
Yeah. I mean, the big problem with Houston is they're still going through some growing pains as well. So things that have kind of rolled over from them being introduced in the Big 12, no different than UCF and BYU and stuff. The level of competition is a lot. There's a bigger gap than what we imagine, even more so now with Utah, Arizona, and stuff who have joined at this point. And they're just still trying to find their footing at this point. I mean, you take a look at their roster and everything at this point, and I'm not really scared of any one person on like, sure, they have a little running back who can run a couple yards. They have some guys who can make some tackles and everything, but really, again, they're just a upgraded Temple. They're not that good. Gavin, what's your thoughts going into Houston? I'm struggling to find some other key stuff to talk about that wouldn't be the same stuff we would recap if this was Temple all over again.
I think the biggest issue for me with Houston, it's like you pretty much put it on to the point. They probably only have like maybe some small upgrades for the most part, but I just really don't see anyone as really a huge threat at this moment, honestly. And to get pretty much almost shut out by UNLV. I mean, I'm gonna say this. It's gonna probably be over when we get into halftime. It's gonna be that much of a, demolishing. Honestly.
I mean, I think the same. And something we haven't discussed really is just like with LSU, Houston got flagged a lot, and their O line is garbage. Where the quarterback got sacked multiple times at that point. There's not going to be a lot of protection, and if our defense plays exactly like they did in the first two series and set the tone, they're going to eat him alive. Like Swiggy, you talked about the forbidden danger kitties. They're about to become kittens at this point.
Yeah,
Houston, Swiggy, what else are you seeing from Houston though?
I mean, I'm trying. I'm trying to feel anything good about them, but they don't have a lot. They don't have a lot of seniors. They don't have a lot of juniors. They have more. They have more. They have a few more than I thought. But I mean, they're a young team. Fritz is trying to rebuild them. Things just aren't going to gel. Things just aren't going to gel for them yet. Maybe in a year, maybe next year, I could see him as an interesting sleeper pick. But right now, they got nothing. They are who they are. They're they're still Power 5, even though they've just even though they joined Power 5 last year. But I mean, they're still Power 5, so you still have to respect them, at least from a snowball's chance in hell kind of level. But
Yeah,
there's just not a lot. Like I'm trying to think if I look. I don't think Tulane's gonna upset us, and I have a and I'd much like if you ask me to would Tulane or Houston upset us, I'd say Tulane, and I don't think that's going to happen. Houston's just not there. Houston's just not there yet. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about. Really, just what I want to see is look. Even though it's Houston, I at least want to see progress with the offensive line. Like see some more cohesion.
And I think that's what the storyline is. I think with Houston, the biggest storyline with them is former Sooners that were part of the old defensive staff coming in, just like we have with Tulane and Mario Williams from USC at that point. I think really the storyline is, can the offense have a much cleaner game and give us more confidence going into the wrapping up the first quarter of the season. I think that's the biggest storyline going into it, because Houston, just like Temple, cannot afford the defense to pretty much set the tone for the game. And based on how, again, it went with UNLV on their own home turf,
Yeah.
I think they're in for a bad time.
Yeah,
But that's me. I mean, what more can you say about Houston at this point? I think really the only things even I could say of on their team, I think they have a guy with, again, former Sooner Jamal Morris. He's on the defensive one. He's a top 20 player right now in defensive stats. Again, that's a what's it called? That is a skewed number since they've only played one game. However, I mean, that's still that. And then same thing with looking at the other one is their running back, Parker Jenkins. He was averaging about 8.5 yards a carry. But again, it's a skewed number because Parker Jenkins only had 2 attempts. It was like Taylor Tatum. So second verse, same as the first. I mean, I expect us to go full 19 55. That's why we're wearing the the throwback jerseys. That's on them, and we're gonna invoke the spirit of Bud Wilkinson to destroy them.
Yeah,
I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah,
I expect a cleaner game. I expect if guys are going to be back healthy, we're going to see a much cleaner up front in the trenches. I think offensively they're going to look a little bit better. Again, I don't expect any changes still because it's still going to be vanilla. There's not a lot, and I don't blame them. Like, if you can get away with it, take it all the way to Tennessee, and then open up the box against Tennessee at that point.
Style points. I mean, style points straight don't count anymore.
Correct.
They very straight don't count. So, we'll see. It's. I don't think we'll see. I'll have that game. I'll have that game on. I'll have that game on. I'll be watching it, but I'm probably gonna be flipping between. Man, I really don't think NC State's gonna give Tennessee any. I really don't think NC State's gonna give Tennessee a game. I will say, if Appalachian,
honestly, that is a good game to have to give us a preview of what Tennessee is going to be.
I will say, if Appalachian State beats Clemson, I'll never stop laughing. I don't think they will, but once again, there's snowball's chance in hell. So,
yeah. I mean, to me, again, circling back to Houston, I think that, again, the storyline is going to be, and I think the big points are, can the O-line, if we get some of the more healthy guys back, the guys healthier back on the line, can they open up running lanes for the guys, even if it's just to pass the eye test? Will they be able to do that, and will they be able to convert third downs? There's a difference of being able to convert third downs when you're making a bajillion first downs, and that stat is skewed to first and second down conversions. And are we going to see any long balls? I don't think so. Again, I think the game plan is going to be very simple to Temple, just a little bit more upgraded. But the storyline is going to be, can the offense look competent? I mean, if people are wanting to go to the game right now on SeatGeek, it looks like it's $42 to go to the game. So anybody can probably go to the OU game and have a fun time at this point.
Maybe I will. I'm not going. Maybe not. Well, no, actually, okay. Well, actually, no. I take it back. I'm gonna probably be flipping to Colorado and Nebraska because that's at least
that's our hate watch game of the week.
That's intriguing. That's at least intriguing to me because I think Sanders and Travis Hunter are good, even though Travis Hunter committed OPI like every single. But whatever. I mean, whatever. Defensive backs commit DPI like every down, so that doesn't really matter. But
it's just if they get caught.
I'll be interested because Colorado struggled against a admittedly very good FCS opponent last week in North Dakota State, and and to me, this is a big test. To me, this is a big test for Rules Nebraska. It's in Nebraska. They have that. They have that new quarterback. That's intriguing to me, and some of that's I'm buying the Colorado hype. Not really. I don't think Colorado's going to be good, but they have a quarterback who can score, and to me that's kind of a good barometer for where is Nebraska now in year two of Matt Rule.
And I think they found a quarterback.
Oh, they did. Oh, are you kidding me? I wish Ohio State had been able to keep that guy. But that's my thing. Like like Colorado State, I don't care about. Baylor, Colorado, I don't care about.
Yeah.
But Nebraska intrigues me because look, they're clearly below the heavyweights in the Big Ten, but there's nothing that says they can't change that with their kind of with a very devoted fan base and NIL and a smart coach. So, admittedly, I'm probably buying into Nebraska a little bit too much, and Colorado might have a bit too much speed for them. But we'll see. At least to me that's more intriguing than Tennessee, NC State, even though those two teams have numbers next to them. So
it's like I said, it's my hate watch one. What about Texas and Michigan?
Look, I think Texas is going to roll Michigan, and because I don't think Michigan's good this year. Like I think like Michigan's hyped up, but they've lost a lot from that national championship team. I don't think Moore is a terrible coach, but until he proves himself, he's no Harbaugh. They looked really bad at home last week, and while I think Texas does have issues, I just don't think Michigan's defense is going to be good enough to stop Texas. Now that said, whichever team loses, I'm going to laugh my ass off since I hate both teams. But
I mean, and that's fair because both of them, obviously Michigan for obvious reasons and Texas for obvious reasons as well.
Yeah.
Looking ahead as well. What about Gavin? What do you think about Arkansas State and Oklahoma State?
You mean Arkansas and Oklahoma State?
Arkansas. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Arkansas.
This one's going to be very interesting because if this was over in Arkansas, I would basically give Arkansas the win at this point. But since they're traveling to Stillwater, and with kind of like Ollie Gordon has been headlining all this and everything for the season, and they look pretty good against South Dakota State, who is like a 2-time FCS national champion. I mean, yeah, they gave up 20 points, but South Dakota State's not a team you should be laughing at. They're really good.
Yeah.
I would have to get the advantage more to Oklahoma State because at least they're kind of a little bit more of a tougher battle test, if anything.
Yeah. Again, we also have Oregon against Boise State. Again, we'll kind of see if it was just an anomaly last week that Oregon struggled against Idaho, or if this is actually going to be kind of a trend type of deal. Because
or maybe they just have issues with teams in Idaho in general, and for the most part. I mean, that's probably been the biggest issue.
Yeah, and that could be the case at this point. I will say, gentlemen, that I was wrong. I know this is a rare occasion. Jokes aside, though, I was wrong because I very much predicted that the that College Game Day would not go to a non-Big 12 or SEC campus if a team happened to be like a Big 10 team who hosted it. And they are going to Ann Arbor this weekend. So I was wrong. I thought they would not want to advertise their competition, but guess what? They were able to advertise and everything. So, or get that done. Now, it could be still because it's an SEC team for that. So the reserved judgment for it, but I stand by my potentially, hey, I mean, there is a chance for it, and that's their middle ground. We're only going to go if there's an SEC team, but otherwise, as of right now, I am wrong. So I don't really even think there's other games to look forward to this week. We kind of covered the big ones for it.
Well, there are a few.
I mean, we covered the major ones because the rest of them are probably going to be like, are they really going to impact the playoff? Like Utah versus Baylor? No. Utah's going to roll Baylor.
Well, I mean, Iowa State, Iowa's always fun.
But Iowa always wins. It's like the bedroom of the
but it'll be fun to see if Iowa can keep their offensive explosion going, which we call just a normal game.
Well, and I guess if you want to say Kansas State will give us our first look at Tulane and stuff as well.
Well, the other team I'm looking at, and admittedly they're playing Northern Arizona, so we're not going to learn a lot about them. I gotta say, Arizona caught my attention last week with with how well they play on offense. Now their defense looked pretty bad against a really good New Mexico. I think it was New Mexico State they played. Let me double check.
Yeah.
It was just New Mexico. I mean, against a pretty solid New Mexico QB who was able to run all over them. But
yeah,
I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by them as a Big 12 dark horse. So just because, I mean, anytime you put up 61 points on like any team, on any like team I know, you know what? You got my attention. I'll be interested. I'll at least be looking at I'll at least be side-eyeing Arizona in the Big 12, just because I know everyone thinks I know Utah's the favorite, and Utah should be the favorite. But that's Arizona's returning that quarterback from last year, and their wide receiver who ran over us in I forget what bowl that was last year. That tells you how much I care about bowl games.
I think it was Alamo
Bowl, yeah. So, I mean, they'll have two big games early on. They have, not this week, but next week, they have Kansas State, and then a bye, and then they're Utah. They got two big away games. I mean, not this weekend, so really not this weekend. I'm kind of looking ahead.
Yeah.
But I'm at least side-eyeing Arizona to see how they look against North Arizona. I'm really side-eyeing them. I think they're one of those teams where they could be a surprise playoff team this year. Which maybe not. Maybe not, but yeah. Otherwise, that's pretty much everything big. We can still have a lot, other than the funny answers. Boise State being Oregon, but if it happens on Peacock only, does anyone really know if it happened?
Yes. Just like if it happens on the Hallmark Channel, does it really happen? So,
or if it happens with DirecTV customers, but
that's very fair. That's very fair. Guys, let's wrap up. So, Gavin, Houston coming to town again. This weekend, 6:45, I think kickoff. Remember, everybody, it is on the SEC network. So if you don't have your subscription set up, get it set up now, so you're not having to call your kid and ask how to set it up. And don't complain about it, because $5 is better than $60, as much as people want to say otherwise. That said, Gavin, what OU is favored in this game? I think 29.5 points against Houston. What is your score prediction, and will they beat the spread?
I think they'll beat the spread, but I think it'll probably be about like I would say like maybe 49 to probably 7.
I mean,
touchdown in the end.
I'm at
okay.
I mean, I'm at 4. I mean, I'm at 45, and I think we're going 45 and I think we're going 45 to 10. So yeah, I have us beating the spread.
I also have us beating the spread, but I'm definitely not as pessimistic as both of y'all. I think, again, we're gonna break half 100, and it's going to be 63. I'm gonna go 6. They are definitely gonna beat the 29.5 point spread. I think Houston is, as Sean said on his channel, Houston is much closer to Temple than they are to Tulane. Despite being a Big 12 opponent, I think OU's defense will again set the tone for this game. I think OU's offense is going to look much better going out onto the field, and I don't see really any reason why OU shouldn't score at minimum 29.5 on them and have this game taken care of, hopefully by the fourth quarter at this point. So,
Yeah.
guys, anything, final thoughts, anything from last week and this week before we say farewell on this stream before we have our post-game one on Sunday?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
My only recommendation is don't say Beetlejuice 3 times.
Exactly, because we've seen what happens. So everybody, that's all we have for tonight. Be sure to comment, rate, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell so you know when the channel updates and or posts videos and or when we go live. Additionally, be sure to check out my previous videos and live streams as well, as it helps bump the channel numbers up and helps the video algorithms in the search bar and or after videos. Our next live stream should be Sunday, September 8th at 8:00 p.m. Central Daylight Time. As a reminder, we usually will hold post-game videos either on the occasional Sunday or Monday and our preview show on Wednesday or Thursday. So be sure to check the calendar. Finally, if you're curious on the upload schedule, take a look in the description below. That's going to show everything that I have planned for all week for uploading. Usually, if I attend the game, I will upload video clips and I will upload gameplay footage and kind of a recap, sights and sounds, as well as post-game stuff. But again, that is always subject to change because of my own schedule as well, and if I can get in front of a screen. It's a lot easier, again, for me to live stream because there's not editing that needs to be done versus having to do like pre and post game videos. There's a lot more work that go into it than people realize. So again, guys, thank y'all for joining tonight. Boomer Sooner. I hope everybody has a good rest of their week. Let's go beat Houston at home for the second home game of the season and get ready for third week of play as we'll face Tulane next week. Again, I expect us to win. So Boomer Sooner, guys. There's only one. See y'all next live stream.